pastors, ministry leaders, and future ministers. I'm Sehi, and this is Crystal, and we're so excited you're joining us today.
We're here to do our first podcast. It's designed to offer tangible leadership competencies that you can easily apply to your ministry context.
Yes, we're so excited, and I hope that you are just as excited as we are as we're about to give you lots of tips on how to become better leaders. A lot of viewers may be wondering, why podcast now? I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. Network of Women Ministers has been for how long? Around?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. Yeah, you've waited long enough. Now we're going to give you some podcasts. So give us some background stories.
So people sometimes ask me, what does the Network of Women Ministers do? Yeah. And we basically do three things. We advocate for women ministers, and that's something, we need our men in there, our people in power to really bring advocation, open doors, understand the importance of having women leaders, so we need advocate. We collaborate. We need each other. And even what we're doing today, we're collaborating with each other as we're growing together. And lastly, we train. And as we begin to look across our landscape of female ministers, we realize that at times there's gaps in our ministry competencies. Sometimes it's because of lack of experience. Sometimes it's because we get kind of niched off in one area. And so we really believe we need to train in holistic ministry competencies. And so these podcasts are really going to fulfill that training piece, or at least one part of the training piece that we can grow as female leaders in these competencies.
So if you're pastoring already, we want you to listen to us. If you're in ministry leadership in any areas, and you're a female or male, and we want you to hear, and in fact, future leaders. And I think that's where we are most excited too, because we want to invest in you and just make sure that you start off right and don't repeat the mistakes that we've done, right? And so we want to just give you those tips and do that. And the purpose of that is, of course, to offer you the tangible leadership resources so that you can apply directly in your ministry context today. That's what is so most important. So we work with a couple of values. We're not just doing this without any values that we want to reinforce.
We sat together as a group of women ministers and really talked about what culture do we want to see as we gather together as women ministers. And we came up with 4 core values. The first one is honor. Devoting ourselves to one another, we will respect and serve ministry colleagues, and humility, valuing them above ourselves. So we want to be a people of honor, that we speak with honoring language, and that we use honor to describe our ministry colleagues.
That is so important because we don't want to just tear each other down. We want to build each other up. We want to be each other's cheerleaders.
Yes. In Romans chapter 10, it actually says to outdo each other with honor. So let's be a people that outdoes each other with honor. Secondly, we want to be a people of authenticity. Sharing our ministry stories, we will speak words of truth and model grace. There's been times that we've been hurt as women ministers, and we need to be able to talk about that.
And oftentimes you see people that are just so put together, right? You see this women in leadership and ministry, and we admire them so much, and rightly so. They're wonderful leaders, but then we feel like they're just so perfect, we'll never be like them. Well, we're here to tell you that nobody's perfect, and we're just going to be authentic, share our burdens and mistakes, and so that we don't repeat and we can build each other up.
Third, forgiveness. Releasing real and perceived ministry offenses, we will rely on God's redeeming love.
I like that how you said it, perceived. Because sometimes we can misinterpret people's intention, right?
It's true, and especially if we've been wounded and we're working out of a wound. And so it's important. Sometimes it takes a long time. Can I tell you, as female ministers, we don't want to minimize the pain that many women have gone through in different platforms. And so it's important that we talk about those and we walk through the process of forgiveness so we're not working out of a wound.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. And what is the last piece?
Last one is hope, which I know you and I are super excited about because we're people of hope. We believe the best for female ministers are ahead. As I look at some of our young women, even those preparing for fine arts coming up, our young teenagers that are going to be preaching, young young women in our AG schools and our Chi Alpha ministries, I'm hopeful of how God is going to be using women greatly in the future.
Right. The best days are ahead, but it starts right now, today, right? And with us. So I'm so excited. So for us to be able to deliver some of these leadership competencies, we're going to have three-legged approach. Number one is Grow Together episode or segment. And that is when Crystal and I will come together and talk to you, just like what we're doing right now. We want you to just join the conversation. We're going to just talk about this, just encourage one another and talk about it with authenticity. And that's so important. The next segment is called Learn Together. And I'm so excited because this is a place where we're going to invite experts from different ministry fields and even future ministers. You know, it may be you, watching you, you could be sitting with us and talking about where you're going from now and there, right?
Yes.
And then finally, this is one of my favorite part. I think everything is my favorite.
Yeah, we just love it all.
For sure. Better Together. And this is every other month. We're going to have a group of people and to just sit together and talk about ministry competencies and just be real. And every time, every topic in every episode, it's all built toward leadership competency, but we're going to approach it in a different way because we understand sometimes, we can have a great conversation like friends, but then we do want to hear some wonderful resources from experts.
Yes.
And sometimes we do want to hear from various perspectives. That's why we do group conversation. So we're so excited. But four main categories we want to cover. Number one is who you are, which is very important. We're talking about identity and the character. And number two is what you do. That's a skills part. Number three, what you know. Knowledge piece. And number four, I know this is your passionate area, and how you do it. This is our behavior. So let's unpack a little bit who you are. What are some of the things that we're going to be talking about, Crystal?
We're going to be talking about calling and missional life, emotional and spiritual integrity. As women ministers, we are held to a higher standard, and we need to know ourselves well, flow in self-awareness so that we can lead ourselves well and lead others well.
Exactly.
And so, we're going to be unpacking those specific to women ministers.
Absolutely. And we see a lot of the wonderful ministers that are not doing so well with their integrity, spiritual integrity, and we see them fall, and we don't want that to happen to us or to you. We need to build this church together. And so we're going to tackle those very sensitive topics. And I love approaching sensitive topics, talking about things that nobody talks about, that those are important. And what about what you do, the things that we do?
Yeah, things like conflict management.
You do that? I can't believe
and critical conversations, which is actually really tough for me, but areas of organizational leadership, which is something I really love, how to lead teams. We're growing as leaders, and we need to know how to lead diverse teams.
Absolutely.
And so that's going to be a good part.
I'm so excited. And the knowledge part. Now, this is not the piece where we're talking about know your Bible, because that's a given. And biblical literacy, yes, everybody needs to know, right? But what are something that we are going to cover on top of that topic?
I think cultural analysis, which say he is a lead pastor at a multicultural church, that's something you've taken very seriously, but we all need to pay attention to cultural analysis. What is our city like? What is, and even how our different context views women in ministry. Those kind of aspects of a cultural analysis and church polity. Robert's Rule of Order.
But we do need to know those.
We need to know all of those pieces. So we'll spend some time unpacking the importance of them, and then also how can we grow in these areas.
And how to do it. And I'm so excited. Yeah, we're not going to be teaching that piece because we're not.
And we may not be all have to be a parliamentarian, but we can grow in these areas.
Absolutely. And we're going to do this together. And then the last piece is how you do it, which, we can know things, how to do it and how to teach or what to do. But then sometimes if we don't know how to do this, we can ruin all of those, right?
I know.
So what do you mean by that? How to do it?
How to do it. Things like communication skills, just the ministry competencies that we just have to do. And so, how do we grow in communication skills? Co-leading. Some of us are leading with a spouse or other men. So just how do we lead together, and how do we lead teams, diverse teams? So all of those will fit into how we do it.
Absolutely. And we're going to try to to pack this information within 10 to 15-minute segments. Sometimes it could get longer. We don't know, but we're going to talk about it and just unpack everything we feel that is most important to you and just tangibly applicable, and that's important. So those 3 segments is important. Well, I can't wait for us to come back and share you that very first episode of Grow Together. Are you excited?
I'm excited. And the Network of Women Ministers, we believe the image of God is best reflected and the Church of Jesus Christ is healthiest when both men and women are empowered to fulfill their call at every level of ministerial leadership.
That is so right. And we know that this road can be rocky at times. But remember, we're in this together.